Hi guys, I'm Shmee, and today I have popped out in my Mini to come to the Westfield shopping centre. Now I'm not actually here to do any shopping, but the reason I've come to visit is because there is a Tesla Supercharger here, and today we're going to be taking a look at this car, the Tesla Model X P100D. Now this car comes from Hire an EV, who have a number of performance electric vehicles on fleet, including the Model X and the Model S, the P100D versions. So this thing, with Ludicrous Plus mode, does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 2.9 seconds. That is ridiculous, but the first thing I want to show you is the sort of magic trick, party tricks that this car has. So, double press, unlock, and the driver's door opens. As if by magic, it is open. Double press again when the driver's door is open, and the passenger door will open as well. Then you get to the rear falcon wing doors. So if we open those, the way they open, sort of gull wing style, but folding out and up to get up towards the top, is just ridiculous. And they have so many sensors and things, so it makes sure it doesn't hit anything, which is why it sort of stops slightly short of how far it can open. But that opens up to reveal the sort of 6-seat configuration, which is just futuristic and space age on its own. Let's open up the other side as well, and we can open up the boot too. It's like you control a car via the key, which is a little model of the car. Now, the Model X's haven't been in the UK for that long, still less than a year. But just look at this thing. It's 2.5 tons, 100 kilowatt battery located in the floor. So it's a pretty heavy machine, but it can still get to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour in just 2.9 seconds, which is insane. Let's have a little look around at some of the other fun things. If I come here, by the way, if you move the rear seat or the middle row of seats forwards to get into the complete sort of third row, it moves the front seat with it. So when you press this button on the back here, everything moves and then it tilts. And these seats sort of have this piano black finish and they just float in the middle of the air with this ultra white interior. You can also have a third sort of a 7-seat configuration as well in this middle row. But it's just loaded with the sort of most bizarre technology and crazy things you could imagine, and the same here with the boot, by the way. It's detected, so it stopped it opening too far, but you've got a decent amount of space if you start lifting up the handle, where you've got this underfloor area with the charging cables and the supercharger that you can see right next to me here. You can fold these down. There's a little button literally in the leather here. Folds that down, and then you sort of drop the seat forwards, which is again all rather trick and clever. And then let's come and do the big one, the big party trick. My favorite thing right now with the Model X. Watch this. So everything's open, the boot, both falcon wing doors, front and back, a triple press of lock, and the whole car closes up. It's a transformer. It is not a car. What is this thing? And it's locked. That is it. My mind is boggled by what I'm playing with here. And then technically, if you have the key in your pocket and you walk up to the car, it actually sort of knows that's what you're doing. I think I'm confusing it by coming backwards and forwards so many times. But just to press otherwise and you're in. And this car's nicknamed Pegasus on the Hire an EV fleet. But you can do all of that by the screen as well, by the way. It's just bonkers. You just press buttons and stuff happens. And the interior of this is finished in such a lovely way. The black Alcantara with all this white leather. You've got this sort of windscreen that goes all the way over the top of you with the tinted section at the front. So it sort of feels so open and wide. And obviously this car has the potential for full autopilot as well. And one of the cool things actually that Hire an EV were telling me is that the sort of idea in the future is that you can literally book via an app. The car will be able to self-drive itself to your door, and then you jump in and drive off. And this is obviously so different from other sort of electric rentals because it's not a 75D, it's not a 90D, it's the P100D. If we have a look there, it has Ludicrous Plus mode, and it's capable of bonkers performance, as well as being sort of insanely well equipped and loaded with options. And that's all controlled through this massive 17-inch digital display in the center, where you've got all your sort of controls for everything you could think about wanting to change. If I just flick through these, you can move the seats from here. You can pull the row of seats forwards just via the buttons on the screen. If you go into the different sort of thing, you've got suspension mode, you need to have the engine, if I can call it that, 760 horsepower engine running, which you do so by just pressing the brake, and then it's off and rolling. And then you've got all your sort of access to steering settings, braking, acceleration. And this is where if you press and hold for 5 seconds, Ludicrous, it will end up in Ludicrous Plus mode. There we go. And it's Star Wars or something. Are you sure you want to push the limits? no, I want my mummy, or yes, bring it on. So that would be Ludicrous Plus mode now. So basically, this thing's just cool. You've got so many options and things you can do and set up and play with. I'll pop it back into park for the moment and stop the car in effect. You give that one pull and the door opens up. The whole thing is just, it's just insane. It's got so much cool stuff to it. And I've opened the other door as well. It's like, I don't know, what is this for a magic trick? What is this? Like, double press driver door, passenger door, rear doors, other rear door. Oh, didn't quite press it there. And the whole thing is just opened up like something from the future, something totally space age. Anyway, I've had a little look around it. Thanks to Hire an EV for this. I'm going to jump in it now though and go for a short little drive, see what the car is like out on the road, and then we'll come back and check out the inside a little bit more. My first comments navigating out of the car park are that this car is huge. It kind of looks, with this sweeping design, very coupe-like, a little bit taller than a Model S, but much the same kind of thing, that it's not that large, but trying to fit it between the barriers was rather awkward. So the doors, amazing party trick. I'm not gonna lie, they feel like they might get a little bit fussy in real world usage, not entirely sure. But we're driving away now. The glass over the front of you is amazing. The regen of the braking, when you just sort of lift off and you feel the car immediately pulling back on you, is obviously a little bit on the irritating side to me, but it makes sense because that's what charges up the battery and that's what gives you the 336 mile range that this car claims. Now in the real world you might not get quite that far, but you get 90% of the charge back in an hour, or in half an hour you get more than enough to go and go out for a proper drive. So you can charge the thing up very, very quickly, and you have an energy graph in front of you which shows you how much power you're using. Driving away though, obviously it's super smooth, it's super calm. It's got the D, which means double motor, so you've got most of the power at the back but a bit of power at the front. Tesla's all-wheel drive system. Obviously automatic means electric means it's automatic and there's no gearbox, there's no like shifting up and down. Obviously you have Mercedes switch gear, so you have the stalk here with park, reverse, neutral, drive. The same with their sort of window and mirror controls are all from Mercedes. But this car has this lovely white interior. It has the optional black Alcantara headliner as well, carbon fiber inlays and trim, so it's super sort of bright and refreshing and nice inside here. And then you've got that eerie silence, the pulling away, just like a gentle breeze, and that's the sort of strangest thing. I still think that we're not quite there on the infrastructure for this kind of car, although just the faint noise of some road some tyres on the road, on the tarmac, as I go straight into a traffic jam. Thank you, London. That's how it'll be. And then you lift off, and that's the regen. That gets me a lot. So we've got all sorts of controls and things we can play through on here. Obviously, there is this autopilot mode where you can enable it. I think with a double pull that way. Yeah. And then you have to sort of keep your hands a little bit on the wheel, but it uses the adaptive cruise control and it uses the lane guidance to basically drive yourself. And that's the craziest thing. And like I said earlier, picture the scene in the future when you have cars that you literally order it on your phone, like you load up the app like Uber, and then the car just appears at your door and you jump in it and off you go. And you can passenger then in the car if you want to as well. This is super weird. The steering wheel is turning just to keep me completely in lane in this little traffic jam. But this might be an opportunity. Oh, I haven't touched the brake. It's brought me to a stop. Does it then have the ability to start me again when it starts moving? We'll see. So controls, tap to unlock. Oh, that's how you'd open the doors. We obviously don't want to do that while we're driving. All the seat controls, suspension. You can make it lower, higher, depending what you need. Driving mode, you can put it into Ludicrous, or like I said earlier, press and hold and put it into Ludicrous Plus. This is weird. Okay. Trailer mode, range mode. What's range mode do? Reducing climate control power. You probably don't want that. You probably want that off for normal usage so that you can keep nice and cool. So you've also got the nice digital dash. Still, this is weird. But I will talk about the price. So the Model X P100, no, let's start. The regular Model X in the United Kingdom is £72,000. This car, the Model X P100D, starts from £136,000. That is an awful lot. So we're verging almost on Bentayga territory. And I mean, I have to be honest, it feels like a notch up from normal, from the Model S, from the regular car. You still got the slightly sort of plasticky interior console, but obviously that it's better than not having a console like the earlier cars. But you've got the nice carbon, the sort of aluminium chromey sort of parts all around, and the leather in here is really, really nice. Makes nice balance with the white leather and the black Alcantara. And just looking around, it's super spacious. One thing that's a bit awkward is that the rear view mirror, you can't see a whole lot backwards. You have this sort of small window above the boot, whereby you can see through, but then it's got the sort of wing that's raised up, so it has this active wing that will come up at speed on the boot, but that puts itself down when you open the boot up. It's quite a trick. So basically this is the car. Oh, it's flashing to tell me to touch the wheel. I guess I hadn't touched it for too long, and it gives me a visual representation of all the cars in front of me and like where they are. That's really awesome. So it's pretty cool. It's a tech showcase. It's completely loaded with everything. Yeah, this is ridiculous. I've just pulled over for a second, and there's one thing that I really want to show you that is super cool, and that is, given you have this glass all the way over your head, how the sun visor works, which is actually here over to the side. So you basically pull this out, it comes round, it latches into the rear view mirror bit there in the middle, and unfolds, and there you've got your sun visor in the middle of the glass, which is basically a regulations thing, isn't it? But it kind of magnetizes itself in, so you have to pull that back. I think that is ridiculously cool and neat, and super awesome, and I hadn't noticed it at first. So that was one of the things. The next I wanted to show you is that it has a front trunk. If we just pop that open, and you pull that once to open the door, step out, come round to this. The front trunk just has no catch, lifts up. You see I've got a bag and a jacket in here, so you've got a decent amount of space there as well. If the back wasn't enough, and I noticed that the door just closed on me. Well, not a bad thing, it's supposed to. And then you close that, give it a firm latch. But then while we're here, actually, just because it's fun, let's do this once more. Driver's door, passenger door, rear right door, rear left door, and the boot. Oh, I didn't quite press the boot one. He says it hasn't opened on me. There we go. Okay, so Transformers are go. Are you ready for this? Well, we're outside in the daylight. And close. That is so hilariously surreal. Anyway, let's jump back in. He says, with style. There we go. In you hop. Give that a little pull. And off you go again. Now, I can't really tell you too much about what this car is actually like to drive, because we're in the centre of the city and I can't really push it. But using it like this, which is presumably where most Model X's will sort of find themselves at home, normal driving rather than kind of completely enthusiastic over-the-top driving. It's gentle, it's smooth, it's easy, the steering is super sort of light and giving. Sometimes when you go over bumps there's quite a jar, and I guess that's a bit down to the weight of the thing, 2.5 tons. It cruises along nicely. Like I said at the beginning, it is quite large, so you're very conscious of sort of how far out the mirrors are and how big the car is in relation to the lane. And then obviously the regenerative braking. The Trek technology with the battery has it all right down in the sort of floor of the car, so from a weight point of view the centre of gravity is super low, even with those sort of motors for the rear doors. And obviously that means it is quite flat, so it's not sort of got a huge amount of body roll when you're cornering, and all of this stuff with the cameras that are literally everywhere. I don't know how many it has, but there are plenty of them. Means that it sort of sees everything around you, and all those kind of safety systems are all brilliant. Like, the adaptive cruise control works expertly. Everything just sort of comes together and is super nice. And then you've got all the entertainment side of things as well. Really nice sound system, cool seats, heated seats, you name it, whatever you want. It's basically got absolutely everything in it, and it's quiet to drive. It's not, you know, uncomfortable. You've got great visibility around to the sides. So when I was saying earlier that you can't see much backwards, you can see a lot kind of out the 3/4, the blind spot area, and just pop it back into the sort of adaptive cruise and autopilot and let it do its thing. And this is just surreal and bizarre, but hey, this is the future, or at least this is, I guess, the start of the future. This is where it's going, and it'll be crazy to see what can happen in not that long in terms of this whole ordering process for cars, or having cars turn up and just seeing what's there. And gosh, this is also weird. So it's basically a thing from the future that we've got now, and it might not be sort of fully understood at this time. It might not even be fully sort of operational at this time. But the future for this is really, really, really cool. And I can't wait to see a lot more of it and wait for all of this to develop. And I know it's not noisy engines. I'm a big fan of V8s, V10s, V12s, noise, speed, power. But this is, from a tech point of view, it's something totally different. You need to not look at it like a car. You need to look at it like something completely different and start from that sort of ground up. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It's totally different to normality, to a normal car, but it's amazing to experience it and see what this thing can do. And it's obviously quite a niche market. You can't go on a massively long trip unless you plan in where you're going to stop. And when I say plan in, the nav will obviously do that for you. If you put in a destination that's 1,000 miles away, it will tell you the stops you should stop at to charge it up, and then you can charge up. It will say 30 minutes at this one, 40 minutes at this one, or whatever you need to do, which is just like crazy that it can do that. And then you can jump into autopilot again and away you go. Now, for testing the sort of driving modes, I will pop it into Ludicrous Plus, but I am in London, so there's nowhere I can really sort of put my foot down and actually use that. If you want to see more about what Ludicrous Plus mode is like, then I would recommend watching my Model S video, because that had the opportunity to push it much, much harder. But the crazy thing is the instant torque. So you put your foot down and away you freaking go, and it flies and it just pulls you back. The seatbelt tightens. And this, I mean, how do you describe instant torque? If you've not experienced it, it's that, like, it's literally from 0 to 100%. It's just like bang, and it hits you. And off you go, and it picks up, and it goes a little bit light at the front, but it's just instantly, literally, the power down and off you go. This is quite something to experience, and the seatbelt's still tight on me. But this is obviously the top version of this car. You can't get a quicker one. And that is why this is just the most surreal thing to experience. It's like being on a roller coaster. You just get this whole sort of like face rearrangement as you get pulled back into the seat. But yeah, Ludicrous Plus mode, when you do launch control, when you come to a stop, brake, accelerate, let go of the brake, and away you go, or just mash the accelerator, is literally like, I mean, crazy. You get to 100 kilometers an hour, 62 miles per hour in 2.9 seconds. Top speed is limited to 250 kilometers an hour, 155 miles per hour. It's kind of an industry standard, but also for the heat of the batteries, because they obviously warm up a lot at speed. So it's sort of limited so that they don't overheat. And one relevant fact, to do the sort of maximum launch, you actually need the battery warm, which means you need to be driving for about an hour for everything to be warmed up, batteries, motors, the whole lot, ready to give you that sort of full get up and go. But it is like as an experiment, just to sort of try what happens when you put your foot down and you let it sort of go like that. I mean, you're instant, like, I don't know how to describe it. It just like shoots off and away you go. And one stat they quote is the sort of passing speed. So if you're going for an overtake, 45 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour is 1.4 seconds. So basically it barely needs anything from when you touch the throttle until you're around and away you go, to go past another person on the road. But like I said actually earlier, I will go back now and show you a little bit more around here. And then wrap this one up. But this has been awesome fun, so thanks to Hire an EV for sending this car my way, for experiencing Tesla Model X P100D. Parking back up then, Tesla Supercharger behind me. The big advantage is how many places now have these, with the capability obviously to just sort of pull in somewhere like this, a shopping centre. Park up the car, which like I said is quite awkward, it is quite big and fiddly. Hit the end for park, and you're done. You basically just open the door, it says, and it's off. That's it. Before we go anywhere though, another little look around here, and I showed you a lot of detail if you watched my Model S video, P100D, of these screens. But on here on the driver display, you can choose literally what's on each side, press and hold that, and then toggle up and down, and literally obviously go through plenty of different things you might want on the screen. You can change what's on the left, what's on the right. In the central panel, you have, if we close up the sort of things that are open, you have this sort of split screen view, obviously your built-in browser because it has a SIM card, 4G, get data anywhere you want it, navigation, Google Maps, spin it around, you can see we're currently at the Westfield Shopping Centre. Back in here, north up would be that way, or you can probably press that button and swizzle it around. That's the direction apparently I'm facing, or north, there we go. You've got everything up here, you know, more charts and data, and you can see the sort of projected range from now based on how it's being driven at different stages. Phone, browser, all the different stuff. And then down here is your controls, and you can swap them around, he says. I'm not entirely sure how you do that, but you can swap what's top and bottom. You can go full screen on anything you want. Okay, full screen on the nav, do it like that. Then climate stuff is all down the bottom, your heated seats, your cool seats, into the controls. Turn it off if you want it off. Volume. And then beneath that, if you can see down here, you've got this nice sort of carbon top piece that hides away this cup holder storage area. And these come out, so you can actually make that a big storage bucket if you want. But just nice little pieces rather than for your drinks. And then behind that, you've got another flap, which has your 12 volt and your USB port in there, so that all works fine. Then you've got your armrest, which opens up like this. More cup holders everywhere in here really, and these are really quite nicely finished, nicely padded. And then there's not really that much else to it. Glove box button, hazard button on this side, and that's more or less everything. Let me jump out again. Don't know if there's a trick way to close the door other than just walking away from it. But it's basically keyless, you don't need to do anything, or you can press the button and bang, it's shut. And the car locks, and then obviously, caught the wing going down there, that rear wing I mentioned earlier. The car is really high, this is almost at sort of shoulder level. And then you plug it into the supercharger, which hides away in here, I believe. It says, I think that needs opening. There we go, and it plugs into that. With this, which one does like so. Press the button, there we go, in, plugged in, and that is now charging up. So from a design point of view, it is super streamlined, incredibly low drag coefficient, basically because there are no openings around the front. The things that are required, the lights. Tesla had this new sort of grille style through to the T in the center, but basically the rest is just body colored, plain and simple. But it does look kind of like just an enlarged Model S. It's just a little bit taller. The roof line following much the same sort of curve, so it has this kind of coupe style. It's just really, really quite big as a sort of overall thing. But then it does that, and that is just super cool. It's ridiculously cool, but I haven't up to this point actually sat in the back, so let's jump in here and see what it's like. So here, there's an air vent there, that's quite neat. And another button for the doors. More than enough room in the middle row with the seat where it is. I expect the back is going to be quite cramped, but I'm going to come through here and try. Yes, long story short, I don't really fit behind this seat. So it's for small children, or slide that seat forward. Headroom is actually okay. My head, if I spin the camera around, I'm not hitting the roof, which is kind of surprising, but I would have to sit with my sort of knees facing towards the middle of the car to fit back here. Or obviously you can fold the seats down and have more luggage space if that's what you would prefer. But it's even from back here, it seems quite airy, just how much glass there is all around. And then you get out through the middle, back up to the front, where you've got the screen showing the details of the supercharging in process. So, more carbon back there as well. Everything's quite nice. I would worry a lot about this piano black getting very, very scratched, especially with the knees in and out all over it. But it's actually a really quite nice thing. They're significantly better sort of quality, more refined than at the sort of start. Does that? Press the button and then the door closes. Than the first sort of generation of Teslas. But this has been quite an enjoyable experience, quite a remarkable piece of technology, and quite a sort of fun thing to get to know more about and just play around, especially with that magic party trick that is the doors on the Model X. I can't believe I've never played with one before, just to see how all of that works. It is a transformer, it is something crazy, and just completely randomly I've just noticed there is a Vanquish Volante part right there, which is quite nice as well. But back to the Model X. So a big thanks to Hire an EV for letting me take this out. Performance EV vehicles, electric vehicles alike, the Tesla Model X and the Model S available for rent. So I'll pop in their link down below. And if you use the reference code, the discount code SHME150, 10% off as well for renting an EV, seeing what they're like, getting to test one out maybe. Anyway, the future is about here now. These things are quite a remarkable step forward. So a big thanks for them for bringing the car, allowing me to take it out for a test drive and share this video with you guys. And as a noise of a very unpleasant petrol, diesel, probably diesel engine gets the move on, we get the point. This is the future. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch up with you again very soon. Cheers.